So you guys got money now lah, I heard, huh? The last time I was here, I did the 1,000 ringgit phone buyer's guide for y'all, but apparently those two jiplak for you lah. Okay. Mo Mantai, Abang Raymond here, and again, and since you guys got big budget, let's double it up with the SoyaCincau's best smartphones under 2,000 list. Alright, so we're gonna kick things off with the newest smartphone on our list today, the POCO F5 Pro. However, since you guys got so much money now, right, we're also gonna start by saying that technically the POCO F5 Pro costs a little bit more than the 2,000 budget we set out lah, with a retail price of 2,099 ringgit for the base model. But seeing as during the launch promo, the F5 Pro went for as low as 1,999 ringgit, chances are that you can still snag it at that price during future sales periods lah. For that much money, you're getting a large 6.67-inch 1440p AMOLED display capable of a 120Hz refresh rate and a 480Hz touch sampling rate with a peak brightness of 1400 nits. There's also a layer of Corning Gorilla Glass 5 OLED for scratch resistance. Under the hood, meanwhile, is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor, which may be a year old now by now, but it's still a pretty capable flagship tier chip that gets mated to up to 12GB of RAM and up to 512GB of storage. It comes with Android 13 out of the box with MIUI 14 skinned over it. On the back of the POCO F5 Pro, meanwhile, is a triple camera setup with a 16MP main camera with optical image stabilization and 8K video recording, flanked by an 8MP ultra-wide and a 2MP macro lens, while a 16MP front camera rounds it all off. Other features of note include a 5,160mAh battery with 67W fast charging and, for the first time on a POCO, wireless charging too. There's also stereo speakers, an in-display fingerprint sensor, and an IR blaster. For something that's a little bit more under budget, there's also the Samsung Galaxy A54, which retails at 1,899 ringgit. This gets you a 6.4-inch Full HD Plus Super AMOLED display with a 120Hz refresh rate and a peak brightness of 1000 nits, together with a layer of Corning Gorilla Glass 5 over it for scratch resistance, as well as a IP67 dust and water resistance rating. Powering the Galaxy A54, meanwhile, is Samsung's own Exynos 1380 processor, with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. It comes with Android 13 skinned with One UI 5.1 out of the box, and impressively, Samsung has guaranteed 4 major Android OS upgrades along with 5 years of security patches. This makes it the standout choice here in terms of software support compared to the rest of the field. There's also a triple rear camera on the back, packing a 15MP main camera alongside a 12MP ultra-wide and a 5MP macro lens, while in front is a 32MP selfie camera. Keeping the lights on, meanwhile, is a 5,000mAh battery with 25W fast charging, and you'll also get stereo speakers and an in-display fingerprint sensor. If you're more into taking selfies more than anything else in the world, the Vivo V27 could be one smartphone for you to consider. Starting at 1,799 ringgit, the Vivo V27's most notable feature is its front-facing 15MP camera with autofocus. On the back, meanwhile, is a 50MP main camera, flanked by an 8MP ultra-wide and a 2MP macro lens. The Vivo V27 also packs a large 6.78-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display, with curved edges and a 120Hz refresh rate. Under the hood, meanwhile, is a MediaTek Dimensity 7200 mated to up to 12GB of RAM and 256GB of storage with Android 13 skinned with FunTouch OS 13. There's also a 4,600mAh battery with 66W fast charging. Next up, it's the Oppo Reno8 T 5G. Not to be confused with the Oppo Reno8 T 4G, because everyone has apparently forgot how to name their smartphones like normal people. With a price tag of 1,799 ringgit, the Oppo Reno8 T 5G features a 6.7-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display with curved edges and a 120Hz refresh rate, and a peak brightness of 900 nits. Powering the Reno8 T 5G is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 695, mated to 8GB of RAM, 256GB of storage with ColorOS 13 out of the box. There's also a 4800 mAh battery with 67W SuperVOOC fast charging, stereo speakers, and an in-display fingerprint sensor. While these specs aren't particularly great, the Reno8 T 5G does have one trick up its sleeve. On the back of the Reno8 T, you'll find a 108MP main portrait camera alongside a 2MP depth sensor and a 2MP micro lens that allows you to get up to 40 times magnification. There's also a 32MP selfie camera in front. Lastly, we're gonna go back in time a little bit with the Xiaomi 12T. Now, I know the Xiaomi 12T launched last year, but seeing as it only launched in October, we'll give it a slight pass. Being a little older also means that while it officially retails at 1,999 ringgit, you might be able to find it at a much lower price. On the Xiaomi 12T, you're getting a 6.67-inch AMOLED display, pushing a 2712 by 1220p resolution with an up to 120Hz refresh rate, a peak brightness of 900 nits, along with a layer of Corning Gorilla Glass 5 over it for scratch resistance. Under the hood of the Xiaomi 12T, meanwhile, is a MediaTek Dimensity 8100 Ultra processor with 8GB of RAM and 256GB of storage. Being an older phone though does mean that it comes with Android 12 out of the box, skinned with MIUI 13 over it. On the back of the Xiaomi 12T is a 108MP main camera, flanked by an 8MP ultrawide and a 2MP macro lens, while a 20MP selfie camera rounds things off. You'll also find a 5000 mAh battery with 120W wired fast charging, an in-display fingerprint scanner, and stereo speakers. And that's been our short list of the best smartphones to get under 2,000 ringgit in Malaysia. Let us know what you think about our choices. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you missed out any that, maybe better options? Let us know in the comments below. Remember to like this video if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, and subscribe for more from us here at SoyaCincau's. This has been Raymond, signing out.